Welcome to Pastor Andrew's Inspirations. If you enjoy these videos, please click on the red subscribe button below and the bell for more. Welcome to our online church, a congregation made up of many from around the world. No offering is necessary. Subscribing and watching videos will keep us alive under God's watchful eyes. Today we will be talking about biblical names, starting with G, part 3 of 4. Gemalli. Gemalli of the house of Dan was the father of Ammiel, a scout sent to Canaan, prior to the crossing of the Jordan River, according to Numbers chapter 13. And these were their names: of the tribe of Reuben, Shammua the son of Zaccur. Gemariah. Gemariah is the name of at least two biblical characters. Gemariah, son of Shaphan, in chapter 36 of Jeremiah. His own son, Micaiah, hears Jeremiah's secretary, Baruch, read Jeremiah's prophecies against the nation, and reports to a meeting of the court officials, including his father nearby. This leads to the scroll being read before King Jehoiakim, who cuts it up and burns it, despite the protestations of Gemariah and Elnathan ben Akbor. Gemariah, son of Hilkiah, one of the envoys whom King Zedekiah sent to Babylonia, in Jeremiah chapter 29. Nothing else is known of him. He was hardly the brother of Jeremiah, whose father was also named Hilkiah. Genubath. Genubath, meaning stolen, is mentioned in 1 Kings chapter 11 as the son born to Hadad, the Edomite, and the sister of Queen Tapines, Pharaoh's wife. Gera. In Genesis chapter 46, Gera is the fourth of 10 sons of Benjamin. Gera is also the name of the father of Shammua in 2 Samuel chapter 19. Gera is also the name of two of the sons of Bela, making both nephews of the earlier Gera in 1 Chronicles chapter 8. Gera is also the name of the father of Ehud, a Benjamite, a man left-handed, in Judges chapter 3. Gershom. According to the Bible, Gershom was the firstborn son of Moses and Zipporah. The name means a stranger or sojourner there in Hebrew. Biblical scholars regard the name as being essentially the same as Gershon, and in the book of Chronicles, the ancestor of one of the principal Levite clans is sometimes identified as Gershom. The firstborn son of Moses by Zipporah, born in Midian. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, came to Moses in the wilderness, bringing with him Moses' wife, Zipporah, and their two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. The priestly service of Gershom's descendant Jonathan on behalf of the Danites was illegal, because although he was a Levite, he was not of Aaron's family. The passage in Exodus concerning Moses and Zipporah at a night camp appears to suggest that some being, possibly God or an angel, attacks either Gershom or Moses, until a circumcision is carried out by Zipporah on Gershom. One of the accounts of Micah's idol refers to a priest as being a sojourner there, which could be taken as the priest was Gershom. Gershon. According to the Torah, Gershon was the eldest of the sons of Levi and the patriarchal founder of the Gershonites. one of the 4 main divisions among the Levites in biblical times. The Gershonites were charged with the care of the outer tabernacle, including components such as the tent and its covering, screens, doors, and hangings. Biblical scholars regard the name as being essentially the same as Gershom, which appears to mean a sojourner's there. And it is Gershom rather than Gershon who is sometimes listed in the book of Chronicles as the founder of one of the principal Levite factions. The Torah names Gershon's sons as Libni and Shimei. The genealogy is attributed to the Book of Generations, a document originating from a religio-political group, similar to that behind the priestly source. There were 4 different groups among the Levites: the Gershomites, the Kehotites, the Merarites, and the Aaronids. Gether. According to the Table of Nations in the book of Genesis in the Hebrew Bible, Gether was the 3rd son of Aram, son of Shem. He appears only twice in the Hebrew Bible, and both times is only mentioned in passing in genealogical lists. In the Table of Nations in Genesis chapter 10, he is son of Aram, while in 1 Chronicles chapter 1, he is listed among the sons of Shem. In Islamic traditions, he is sometimes considered the father of Tammuz, whose descendant was the Islamic prophet Salih. According to the 1st century Jewish historian Josephus, Gether is an ancestor of the Bactrians. Jerome, circa 390, considers Gether the ancestor of the Acarnanians. Isidore of Seville, circa 635, makes him ancestor of the Acarnanians or Curians. Geuel. Geuel, the son of Makai, of the tribe of Gad, was a scout sent to Canaan prior to the crossing of the Jordan River, according to Numbers chapter 13. Giddel. Giddel was a 2nd generation Amorah sage of Babylon and the land of Israel. Rav was his principal teacher. Dozens of times he delivers Rav's teachings in the Talmud, many of which he heard indirectly from his teacher, Giah bar Joseph, after the death of Rav. Giddel went to study under Rav Huna. It is told that Rav Huna gave lengthy lectures, and many of his students, among them Giddel, restrained themselves from relieving themselves during the lessons, and became infertile as a result. Later on he moved to live in the land of Israel, in the Beit Midrash of Yochanan, Bar Nafka, in Tiberias. Once when Giddel was in the process of buying a field, Abba came and purchased it first. The case came to the attention of Isaac Napaha, who asked Abba, "If a poor man is examining a cake, and another comes and takes it away from him, what then?" And Abba replied, "He is called a wicked man." Abba explained to Isaac Napaha that he did not know that Giddel was already eyeing the field. And now knowing this, he was ready to gift the field to Giddel, but not to sell it to him, since selling one's first field is a bad omen. Giddel refused to accept it as a gift, in accordance with the verse, "He that hates gifts shall live." And Abba likewise refused to use the field. The field, abandoned by both parties, became known as the rabbi's field. Giddel was accustomed to go and sit at the gates of the bathing place, where women would immerse, in order to teach the laws of Tevilah. When was asked by the rabbis, "Is not the master afraid lest his passion get the better of him?" he replied that he is not afraid, since his passion does not control him. Gideon. Gideon, also named Jerubbaal and Jerubbesheth, was a military leader, judge, and prophet, whose calling and victory over the Midianites are recounted in Judges chapters 6 to 8 in the Hebrew Bible. Gideon was the son of Joash from the Abiezrite clan in the tribe of Manasseh, and lived in Ophrah. As a leader of the Israelites, he won a decisive victory over a Midianite army, despite a vast numerical disadvantage, leading a troop of 300 valiant men in Judges chapter 7. Archaeologists in southern Israel have found a 3,100-year-old fragment of a jug with 5 letters written in ink. They appear to represent the name Jerubbaal or Jerubbaal. The 19th century Strong's Concordance derives the name Jerubbaal from Baal with, or Baal will, contend, in accordance with the folk etymology given in Judges chapter 6. The Besheth part of the name Jerubbesheth in 2 Samuel chapter 11 means shame, a pious edit of Baal, as is also found in Saul's son and grandson Mephibosheth. The use of both names, Gideon and Jerubbaal, reflects 2 individual sets of stories combined by an editor who wishes them to be seen as referring to a single character. According to Louis Gisberg's Midrash anthology, The Legends of the Jews, on the eve of one Passover, Gideon uttered the complaint, "Where are all the wondrous works which God did for our fathers in this night, when he slew the firstborn of the Egyptians, and Israel went forth from slavery with joyous hearts?" God appeared unto him and said, "Thou who art courageous enough to champion Israel, thou art worthy that Israel should be saved for thy sake." God chose Gideon, a young man from the tribe of Manasseh, to free the people of Israel and to condemn their idolatry. The angel of the Lord, or the Lord's angelic messenger, in Judges chapter 6, came in the character of a traveler who sat down in the shade of the terebinth tree to enjoy a little refreshment and repose, and entered into conversation with Gideon. The narrative has echoes of the meeting between Abraham and the visitors who came to him in the terebinths of Mamre, and promised Abraham and Sarah in their old age that they would have a son, in Genesis chapter 18. The angel of the Lord greeted Gideon. "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Gideon requested proof of God's will by 3 miracles. Firstly, a sign from the angel of the Lord, in which the angel appeared to Gideon and caused fire to shoot up out of a rock. And then 2 signs involving a fleece performed on consecutive nights. and the exact opposite of each other. First waking to his fleece covered in dew, but the surrounding ground dry. Then the next morning his fleece dry, but the surrounding ground covered in dew. These are in Judges chapter 6. On God's instruction, Gideon destroyed the town's altar to Baal, and the symbol of the goddess Asherah beside it, receiving the byname of Jerubbaal from his father. Therefore, on that day Joash called him Jerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar against, in Judges chapter 6. He went on to send out messengers to gather together men from the tribes of Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, as well as Manasseh, in order to meet an armed force of the people of Midian and Amalek that had crossed the Jordan River. And they encamped in the well of Harod, in the valley of Jezreel. God informed Gideon that the men he had gathered were too many. With so many men, there would be reason for the Israelites to claim the victory as their own, instead of acknowledging that God had saved them. God first instructed Gideon to send home those men who were afraid. Gideon invited any man who wanted to leave to do so. 22,000 men returned home, and 10,000 remained. Yet with the number, God told Gideon they were still too many. God instructed him to bring them to the water. All those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps, you shall put to one side. All those who kneel down to drink, putting their hands to their mouths, you shall put to the other side. The number of those that lapped up the water, raised to their mouths by hand, was 300, but all the rest of the troops knelt down to drink water. Then the Lord said to Gideon, With the 300 that lapped, I will deliver you, and give the Midianites into your hand. Let all the others go to their homes. During the night, God instructed Gideon to approach the Midianite camp. There Gideon overheard a Midianite man tell a friend of a dream in which a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, causing their tent or camp to collapse. This was interpreted as meaning that God had given the Midianites over to Gideon. Gideon returned to the Israelite camp and gave each of his men a trumpet or shofar and a clay jar with a torch hidden inside. Divided into 3 companies, Gideon and his 300 men marched on the enemy camp. He instructed them to blow the trumpet, give a battle cry, and light torches, simulating an attack by a large force. As they did so, the Midianite army fled in Judges chapter 7. Gideon sent messages ahead into Israel, calling for the Ephraimites to pursue the retreating Midianites, and 2 of their leaders, Oreb and Zeb. Gideon and the 300 pursued Zebah and Zalmunna, the 2 Midianite kings. When he had asked for provisions in his pursuit, the men of Succoth and Peniel refused and taunted Gideon. After capturing the 2 kings, Gideon punished the men of Succoth and pulled down the tower of Peniel, killing all the men there. Gideon invited his eldest son, Gether, to slay Zebah and Zalmunna, but being still young at the time, he did not have the confidence to carry out his father's request. So Zebah and Zalmunna called on Gideon to perform the deed himself. Gideon then killed Zebah and Zalmunna as justice for the death of his brothers. The place where Gideon slew Oreb after the defeat of the Midianites was called the Rock of Oreb. It was probably the place now called Orbo, on the east of Jordan, near Bethshean. Zeb was killed at the winepress of Zeb. The Israelites invited Gideon to become their king and to found a dynasty, but he refused, telling them that only God was their ruler in Judges chapter 8. Gideon went on to make an ephod out of the gold won in battle, according to Ginsburg's The Legends of the Jews. In the high priest's breastplate, Joseph was represented among the 12 tribes by Ephraim alone, not by Manasseh too. To wipe out this slight upon his own tribe, Gideon made an ephod bearing the name of Manasseh. He consecrated it to God, but after his death homage was paid to it as an idol. Gideon had 70 sons from the many women he took as wives. He also had a Sheshemite concubine who bore him a son whom he named Abimelech, which means, "My father is king." There was peace in Israel for 40 years during the life of Gideon. As soon as Gideon died of old age, the Israelites again turned to worship the false god, Baal, Berith, and ignored the family of Gideon in Judges chapter 8. In the New Testament, Gideon is mentioned in chapter 11 of the Epistle to the Hebrews as an example of a man of faith, one of several heroes of faith mentioned there. Time would fail me to tell of Gideon, who through faith subdued kingdoms, worked righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, became valiant in battle, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Gideon is regarded as a saint by Eastern Orthodox, Eastern Catholic, and Latin Rite Catholic churches. He is also commemorated together with other righteous figures of the Old Testament on the fourth Sunday of Advent. He is commemorated as one of the saints of the Armenian Apostolic Church on July the 30th, and in the Roman Martyrology of the Latin Rite on September 26th. In the Protestant Reformation, the Gideon narrative was employed in polemics against the Catholic clergy. Gideons International is an American organization dedicated to Christian evangelism, founded in 1899, dedicated to the distribution of free Bibles. The organization's logo represents a two-handled pitcher and torch, symbolizing the implements used by Gideon to scare the Midianite army. The origin of the phrase "putting out a fleece" is a reference to the story of Gideon, meaning to look for a sign from God before undertaking some action or carrying out some plan. Gideon has become symbolic of military success of a small elite force against overwhelming numerical odds. The Gideon narrative was invoked by Covenanter Commander Archibald Strachan prior to the Battle of Carbisdale 1650. The Gideon Force was a small British-led special force in the East African Campaign during World War II. This was the biblical name starting with G, Part 3 of 4. Please click on the red subscribe button below and the bell for more. Adonai Nisi, the Lord is our banner. God's blessings be upon us all.